We live in this world where your reputation is essentially your currency.
Right,
Like
absolutely.
if someone says something bad about you online or, a vicious rumor starts at the office, the immediate, almost involuntary reflex is to fight back.
Oh, totally. The urge to vindicate ourselves is basically a survival instinct today.
Yeah, you post the receipts, you defend yourself, you correct the record.
I mean, we hire crisis managers to protect our image now.
Mm.
We demand that the truth be out there immediately because being misunderstood, it feels like an existential threat.
But imagine being in a situation where you are facing this massive scandal, like a total PR nightmare that is absolutely going to destroy your life.
Okay, yeah.
And you have the ultimate proof of your innocence, an undeniable, foolproof biological alibi that would just instantly clear your name.
But you don't use it.
Exactly. Instead of using it, you choose to say absolutely nothing. You just take the blame.
It completely short-circuits our modern sensibilities. I mean, it sounds almost impossible to comprehend why someone would willingly absorb that kind of destruction when they, literally hold the key to their own salvation.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. Because to understand how someone could actually do this, we are pulling from a fascinating stack of sources today.
We really are.
We've got a brilliant scholarly analysis by Stipe Odak on medieval texts, various historical church directories, and deep traditions from the Maronite, Coptic, and Orthodox faiths.
It's a lot to cover.
It is. Our mission today is to explore the life of a figure who did exactly what we just described, St.Marina the Monk, also known as Marinos. She was a 5th century Lebanese woman who disguised herself as a man to enter a strict monastery.
It was later falsely accused of fathering a child.
Yes, and she chose utter, devastating silence over clearing her name. Okay, let's unpack this.
To even begin to grasp her choice, we have to establish the world she lived in. We are traveling way back to 5th century Lebanon, to a coastal village called Al-Qalamun.
Okay, setting the scene.
Right, so Marina was born into this wealthy, deeply faithful Christian family. But tragedy strikes early when her mother dies.
Which is devastating.
Yeah, her father, a man named Eugenius, was completely heartbroken. And in his grief, he decides to just renounce all his wealth, leave the secular world entirely, and join the monastery of Conabane.
Wait, I've seen pictures of where this monastery is located in the Kadisha Valley, and it is not your average parish church.
Not at all.
It looks like it's carved straight into the side of a sheer mountain cliff.
It is incredibly rugged. The Kadisha Valley is this dramatic, plunging gorge filled with caves and hermitages.
Like completely isolated.
Exactly. It was designed to be inaccessible.
Mm-hmm.
It's a place where people went to completely sever ties with the comfortable world. So Eugenius wants to retreat there, but he has a young daughter.
Right. What does he do with her?
Well, the standard protocol for a wealthy 5th century widower in his position would be to, arrange a comfortable marriage for his daughter, ensure she's financially taken care of, and then disappear into the mountains.
But Marina completely rejects this plan.
She does.
According to the texts, she confronts her father with a question that feels, incredibly sharp for a young woman of her era. She asks, "Why do you wish to save your own soul and destroy mine?"
It's a powerful line.
It really is. She essentially demands the right to pursue the exact same intense spiritual devotion that he's seeking.
Which forces Eugenius into a corner. I mean, he agrees, but the monastery of Conabane is strictly male only.
Right, so that's a huge problem.
So Marina shaves her head, adopts the male name Marinos, puts on rough men's clothing, and just walks into the mountains with her father.
Wow.
And they are both accepted into the community.
See, this is where my modern skepticism flares up a bit.
Yeah.
I understand putting on a cloak and keeping your head down for a weekend, but they lived there for decades.
Oh yeah, years and years.
And monasteries are intimate, enclosed communities. You're working side by side with these men every single day. How does a young woman pull off this disguise for years without anyone noticing?
All right, it sounds like a movie plot. But the sources explain this survival through the brutal physical realities of 5th century Cenobitic monastic life.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, this wasn't just a quiet, peaceful retreat. They practiced extreme asceticism. We are talking about severe, sustained caloric deficits. They were sometimes eating only once every few days.
That sounds grueling.
Add to that constant physical labor in a harsh mountain climate, and relentless midnight vigils.
So it's less about a clever disguise and more about profound biological changes.
Precisely. When a human body undergoes that level of starvation and physical stress, it fundamentally alters.
Her biology actually changed.
Yeah, a woman experiencing that extreme caloric deficit will develop amenorrhea. Her menstrual cycle stops completely.
Wow.
She loses almost all body fat, which drastically diminishes secondary sex characteristics. Over years of this punishing lifestyle, her physical appearance would become highly androgynous.
So they wouldn't be looking for a woman anyway.
Right. The other monks wouldn't see a woman in disguise. They would simply see Marinos, a particularly emaciated, soft-spoken, beardless young monk who was just exceptionally devoted.
Okay, so Marina and her father live together in a cell, keeping this massive secret, until Eugenius eventually dies.
Yeah, but before he passes, he makes her promise to maintain the disguise.
So she can continue her monastic vocation.
Exactly. And that promise really sets the stage for the crisis.
Because years go by, Marina, who is known to everyone as Brother Marinos, is sent on an errand with some other monks. They have to spend the night at an inn owned by a man named Paphnutius.
Right, the innkeeper.
And while they're there, a Roman soldier staying at the same inn seduces the innkeeper's daughter. She ends up pregnant. The soldier panics and tells her to blame the quiet young monk, Marinos.
This is just a classic scapegoat situation.
Yeah. The innkeeper's daughter follows his instructions. Her father is predictably furious. He storms up the steep paths of the Kadisha Valley, marches right into the monastery, and publicly accuses Marinos of violating his daughter.
And the abbot immediately summons Marina to confront her with this devastating charge.
I just have to pause here because this is the moment where I really just want to yell at the text.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
She is biologically female. It is physically, medically impossible for her to have fathered this child. All she has to do is literally unbutton her tunic, reveal her true biological sex, and the entire accusation vanishes into thin air.
Instantly.
Why on earth wouldn't she just show the ultimate proof, clear her name, and avoid ruining her life? It makes no sense to a modern reader.
What's fascinating here is how we frame the consequences. Revealing the truth would have absolutely exonerated her of the crime, yes.
Right.
But it would have immediately triggered a completely different catastrophe. Her permanent expulsion from the monastery for being a woman.
Oh, wow.
For Marina, the stakes were existential. We look at this through the lens of reputation management. She looked at it through the lens of her soul and the vow she made to her dying father.
So she just accepts it.
She fell to her knees before the abbot and simply said, "I have sinned, Holy Father. Have mercy on me."
It's almost like a witness protection program for the soul.
That's a great way to put it.
Like in witness protection, if you break your cover to defend yourself against some petty theft charge, you blow your entire identity and you lose your sanctuary. She realizes that defending her human reputation means losing her divine calling.
Exactly. And she willingly chose to be seen as a disgraced, hypocritical sinner by everyone she loved, rather than an honorable woman. Because being a woman meant losing her connection to the life she had sacrificed everything to build.
But because she refuses to break cover, the consequences are brutal. The abbot strips her of her belt, her cincture.
Yeah, and in monastic life, the cincture is the visible, tangible sign of chastity and belonging. Stripping it away is a profoundly public, humiliating declaration.
Like a physical excommunication.
It tells the community, you are no longer one of us, and you are no longer pure.
So she is kicked out of the sanctuary. But she doesn't retreat to her wealthy coastal village. She stays right outside the monastery gates, sleeping on the frozen ground, surviving on whatever scraps of bread the monks might take pity to toss her way.
And then, the ultimate insult arrives.
Right, the baby. The innkeeper's daughter gives birth to a boy. The innkeeper marches this newborn up the mountain, shoves the baby into Marina's arms, and basically tells her to raise her son.
And she takes the child. She retreats to a nearby cave in the valley. And this is where the hagiography introduces a profound biological and spiritual miracle.
This part is wild.
Marina is a starving, celibate ascetic who hasn't had a regular menstrual cycle in years, let alone a pregnancy. But according to the tradition, when she holds this starving infant to her chest, she miraculously produces milk to keep him alive.
The paradox of that image is just staggering. A starving woman producing life.
It really is.
And what blows my mind is that this isn't just an ancient myth locked in some dusty manuscript. Down in Al-Qalamon today, there is the Grotto of St.Marina.
Yes, the local devotion there is still so strong.
Local mothers who are struggling with nursing or who have lost an infant still travel to that specific cave today. They take water from the small rock basin there and bless themselves. It's a living, breathing tradition of finding provision in the most impossible circumstances.
It's beautiful. And so she raises this child for years in that cave. Eventually, the sheer endurance of her humility just breaks the monks. They basically stage a protest, telling the abbot that if he doesn't let Marinos back in, they are all leaving.
They couldn't take watching her suffer anymore.
Right. So the abbot relents, but he is still completely convinced of her guilt. He readmits her under brutal conditions. She's assigned the most grueling physical labor, cleaning the latrines, carrying heavy water up the steep valley paths.
And she does it. She raises the boy inside the monastery walls, doing the hardest jobs, until her body simply gives out. She dies at around the age of 40.
Such a short, hard life.
It's only then, as the monks are preparing her body for burial, washing the body according to their strict customs, that her biological sex is finally exposed.
And the psychological shock within that community must have been seismic. The abbot, who had punished her relentlessly for years over a crime she couldn't possibly have committed, just falls to his knees weeping in profound remorse.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the sources describe this massive cosmic vindication that follows her death.
Yeah, the Eastern Christian tradition details several miraculous signs at this exact moment. As the abbot weeps, a voice from heaven tells him his sin of unjust punishment is pardoned because he acted in ignorance.
Okay.
The heavy monastery bells begin to ring entirely on their own, echoing all through the gore.
This is movie-level dramatic.
And furthermore, the innkeeper's daughter, the architect of the whole lie, is tormented by a demon, which is a theological way of describing severe psychological torment.
Right.
She travels to Marina's tomb, publicly confesses her lie, and is finally delivered from her suffering.
It's the ultimate mic drop from the universe. The truth was buried under decades of silence, and then it literally rings out from the bell tower.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it touches on a psychological concept we might call radical acceptance. We often think that fiercely defending ourselves makes us strong.
Right, fighting back.
But Marina's story suggests that true invincibility comes from not needing to be understood by people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Eastern theology views her silence not as passive victimhood, but as a deeply Christ-like absorption of unjust suffering.
She allowed God to be the ultimate vindicator.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the great historical mystery of all this. This story is incredible, but her choice to cross-dress and subvert gender norms seems incredibly dangerous for the strict patriarchal medieval church.
Oh, highly unorthodox.
Why were they writing down and celebrating the story of a woman sneaking into a men's monastery? This is where Stipe Odak's scholarly article comes in, right? Breaking down how modern academics are frantically trying to explain her existence.
Odak frames this as a fascinating intellectual puzzle. Modern scholars look at a quote-unquote transvestite saint in medieval literature and just assume there must be some hidden subversive agenda.
There has to be an angle.
Right. So Odak walks us through these academic theories and systematically dismantles them based on the text itself.
The first major attempt Odak highlights is the pagan theory, proposed by Hermann Usner. He argued that Marina's story is just a recycled pagan myth.
Yeah, specifically linked to the bisexual goddess Aphrodite of Cyprus, where worshippers would swap clothes during rituals.
But Odak rejects this completely, right?
Entirely. Early Christianity was fiercely opposed to pagan mythology. The church fathers were actively trying to eradicate those rituals, not quietly import them into their most sacred moral instruction.
The cultural environment just doesn't support the idea of the church rebranding an Aphrodite cult.
Exactly, it doesn't hold up.
So we toss out the pagan theory. Then Wayne Meek steps up with the Gnostic theory. This one leans on apocryphal texts like the Gospel of Thomas.
Right, which has a very strange line stating that every female who becomes male shall enter the sovereignty of the heavens.
So the theory is that Marina was trying to achieve some sort of androgynous, genderless spiritual ideal.
It sounds plausible at first until you look at the mechanics of Gnosticism. In Gnostic thought, the goal is an actual ontological shift.
Like literally transforming your spiritual essence from female to male.
Yes, but Marina never undergoes a shift in her nature. The reader of the text is always acutely aware that she is a woman. She isn't trying to magically become a man. She's just putting on a disguise to do her chores and pray.
It's practical, not metaphysical.
Precisely. Which leads to the third attempt, the social emancipation theory.
Right, championed by Elizabeth Abbott. This is kind of the modern feminist read, suggesting that cross-dressing was a rebellion, a clever way for a woman to escape the suffocating, inferior status of medieval womanhood and claim male privilege and freedom.
But Odak finds this entirely inconsistent with her actual behavior in the story. If Marina's goal was female emancipation and seizing male authority, why does she so willingly accept the most traditionally subservient roles imaginable during her exile?
Oh, that's a good point.
She humbly accepts the duty of raising an abandoned baby, relying on alms, and then takes on the most menial cleaning tasks when readmitted. Someone seeking male privilege does not quietly scrub floors for the men who falsely accused her.
It really feels like scholars are projecting modern anxieties onto an ancient text.
Absolutely.
Marina wasn't making a complex political statement. Going back to our witness protection analogy, the disguise was purely a utilitarian tool for survival in a highly specific environment. She had to shed her old identity entirely to survive in the new one she chose alongside her father.
That aligns perfectly with Odak's final conclusion. He argues that we shouldn't over-intellectualize the disguise. The medieval church loved and preserved this story because it's fundamentally about radical heroism.
Meaning her devotion.
Yes. The core message is that an absolute personal commitment to God supersedes everything. Tradition, ecclesiastical legislation, and even strict biblical gender dress codes.
She broke the rules of society to follow a higher spiritual calling, and the church actually celebrated her audacity.
They did.
And that audacity resonated so deeply that her story didn't just stay in the Kadisha Valley. The source directories track her legacy and her physical relics, going on this incredible global journey.
It's quite a map.
Her body was moved from Lebanon to Constantinople. Then, during the Crusades in 1231, Venetian merchants brought her remains to Venice, Italy.
And today she rests in the Church of St.Marina Formosa in Venice. The Venetian tradition actually reports that her body is incorrupt.
Meaning preserved from decay?
Exactly. They consider her a patron saint and celebrate her with massive civic pride. Yet Lebanon retained a piece of her history too. Her left hand remained in the monastery of Conabine.
Although medieval relic hunting being what it was, churches in Greece, Belgium, and Mount Sinai all claim they have her left hand as well.
Right, typical medieval relic disputes.
But what is truly stunning is how her radical silent endurance crosses massive theological boundaries. Maronite Catholics claim her. The Coptic Orthodox Church venerates her in Egypt.
And in 2022, the Episcopalians officially added her to their calendar.
That's so recent.
And perhaps most profoundly, she's deeply venerated by the Druze community in Lebanon, which is a completely distinct faith tradition.
Wait, really? The Druze?
Yes. They call her Al-Sit Shawani and maintain a shrine dedicated to her on Mount Baruch. Her story of unjust suffering and quiet endurance just speaks to a universal human experience that transcends Christian dogma entirely.
And people from all these faiths seek her out for very specific struggles. She is the patron saint of the falsely accused, of victims of slander, of single parents because she raised that boy alone in a cave,
Right.
and of kidney sufferers stemming from her years sleeping on the freezing ground. Now, we do need to clarify one massive historical mix-up before we finish.
Yes, the dragging confusion.
Exactly. If someone listens to this and searches for St.Marina, they might find classical paintings of a woman aggressively hitting a demon with a hammer or bursting out of the stomach of a dragon.
That is a fascinating conflation. The woman with the dragon is Margaret of Antioch, a 4th century martyr who is often called St.Marina, the great martyr in the East.
Totally different person.
Completely different. Over the centuries, people confuse the two. It's almost as if later generations couldn't handle the agonizing quietness of Marina the Monk's suffering.
They needed something louder.
Exactly. They needed a loud, dramatic action hero saint who fought literal monsters, rather than a woman who fought the quiet monster of human ego.
So it sounds like her legacy was almost too heavy for people to carry without adding dragons to it.
That's a great way to put it.
Taking all of this in the extreme physical disguise, the refusal to defend herself, the baby in the cave, the scholarly panic to explain her away, what does this all mean for us?
This raises an important question about the nature of truth itself. We started by talking about the modern anxiety around reputation.
Right.
Marina's story is a stark reminder that human judgment is incredibly fragile and often wrong. The abbot got it wrong, the village got it wrong. But the truth didn't need Marina's voice to survive.
It survived on its own.
The core of her reality managed to outlive the loud gossip, the slander of her accusers, and centuries of history. It asks us to consider whether we trust that the truth has its own inevitable weight, independent of our frantic efforts to prove we are right.
That is such a heavy countercultural takeaway for you listening right now. In an era where we are terrified of being misunderstood or canceled, Marina's story is a profound meditation on letting go of the ego.
It really is.
It's about trusting that the truth will ultimately come to light, even if it takes a lifetime. But there is one final haunting detail from the source material that complicates this neat bow, and I want to leave you with it.
It involves the note she left behind.
Right. Right before her death, Marina supposedly wrote a letter that was found with her body. The text reads, "I am a woman and not a man. I embraced monastic life with my father. I was falsely accused. I have raised this child with my care. I beg of you, my brothers, do not remove my habit."
Her final dying wish was for eternal concealment. She wanted to be buried as Brother Marinos, her secret kept safe in the earth forever.
But the universe or God or simply the inflexible rules of monastic burial rites chose otherwise.
Right. They washed her anyway.
The monks washed her, her biological truth was exposed to the world, the bells rang, and her name was cleared in this massive, spectacular public vindication. So I want you to ponder this tension. Marina's deepest, final wish was to remain hidden.
Yeah.
Did her ultimate miraculous vindication actually violate her dying request? Or was that spectacular exposure necessary to heal the broken community she loved? Think about that tension between our desire to hide our deepest sacrifices and the light that refuses to let the truth stay buried. Keep that in mind the next time you feel the desperate urge to post the receipts.